Hi everyone, today is Friday, June 29th, 2007, and yesterday I went to the K-Lab, a human performance lab at Duke University Sports Medicine to be tested for my fitness level. I learned a ton of information about my own fitness level and about general fitness principles such as lactic threshold, VO2 max, and intensity levels. Now the first question I asked Greg McElveen, the sports physiologist conducting my test, is what does a person like myself, an average Joe athlete, have to gain by going to a place like the K-Lab and being tested?
Well, that's the perfect question. So what happens is people can go out and train and hope that their training is really worth each minute they're putting in and that they're training at the right intensity to reach their goals. The key to the ceiling on your performance is how much oxygen your working muscles can use, which is your VO2 max. Okay, so we're going to find out what that is. And we want to find out like how close to your max you can maintain pace, because like you get to a certain point and you can't go any faster. If you try to go faster, you have to slow back down. It just doesn't work. So we want to see what this point is. Then we'll set you up with a training program to raise the ceiling and to raise the proportion of the ceiling you can work at. Then what we can do is come back in the future and test your training program and see the differences, like at a given workload. How are you doing in terms of anaerobic threshold, ventilatory threshold, lactate threshold? Do you reach your VO2 max at a higher workload? Do you reach your lactate threshold at a higher workload? And what all this translates to is faster racing speed.
After entering my height and weight into the computer and determining the protocol for how hard he wanted to run me, Greg hooked me up to a heart rate monitor and the ventilator, and we got started. My test consisted of two roughly 15-minute sessions. The first is when I finished at all-out effort to determine my maximum heart rate and VO2 max. During both tests, Greg pricked my finger and took blood samples about every minute and a half. After 3 minutes of recovery, I did the second test, which was running at my lactic threshold level based on information Greg obtained in the first test. We did the second test so Greg could better pinpoint my magic lactic threshold number.
VO2 is pushing 42, heart rate 146, ventilation 95, RER is 0.96, so we're moving toward that 50-50 point on the aerobic anaerobic.
What I understand, lactate is measured in millimoles?
Yeah, it is.
And at what point traditionally will people reach their LT level? Is it?
Well, there's a rule of thumb 4.0 millimoles per liter. And it's not always that though, because some people have gotten, they've trained for years, they've gotten where they tolerate lactated the muscle cell very well. You might find that theirs is not about to exponentiate till they're beyond that. Now, when I'm actually looking at your blood, then I know I'm not really guessing with like a 5% margin of error. I'm measuring it, and then I can really precisely say, this is it, Jim, and I feel good about that.
So the numbers that Greg generated from my test include a VO2 max of 51.2 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight, which puts me, he said, in about the 144th percentile for my age group. So that's pretty good. My maximum heart rate is 162, and the most important number is my lactic threshold. Now that magic number is where my body produces more lactic acid than it can process, and that happens at 146 beats per minute for me. So this testing has been tremendously helpful to me, and I have a wealth of information that's going to help me going forward with my training.